Happy Thursday. Do we celebrate Thursdays? I don't know. It's the day before Friday, so happy pre-Friday. This is September 10th, 2020. IndigPatriot news. Got some stuff to talk about. Hope you join. If you do, please hit the subscribe button down. It's down there somewhere. Hit the subscribe button to see more. Hit the bell icon. Thank you.
And this is their new hoax. But you know, we did something that's been pretty amazing. We're 15 people in this massive country. And because of the fact that we went early, we could have had a lot more than that. We will do everything in our power to keep the infection and those carrying the infection from entering our country. We have no choice. Whether it's the virus that we're talking about or many other public health threats, the Democrat policy of open borders is a direct threat to the health and well-being of all Americans. Now, you see it with the coronavirus. You see it. I also created a White House virus task force. It's a big thing, a virus task force. I requested $2.5 billion to ensure we have the resources we need. And so far, we have lost nobody to coronavirus in the United States. Every once in a while, I'll have one of these days where I'm hit left and right, like even this great event. What if you could have seen outside, or if you could have heard the reports, oh, it's COVID, it's this again. It's, by the way, it's a disease, without question, has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu, I can name 19 different versions of names. Many call it a virus, which it is. Many call it a flu, what difference? I think we have 19 or 20 versions of the name, but you don't hear them talking about COVID. To be specific, COVID-19. That name gets further and further away from China, as opposed to calling it the Chinese virus.
So when the media ends up calling him out on his politicizing of the virus and the lack of social distancing and proper implementation of guidelines, instead of saying, yes, we're working on it, instead of saying we care about our people, Trump decides that he wants to denigrate the reporters that are asking him questions, downplaying their questions, trying to minimize their questions. The man also finds it appropriate to continue to hold these rallies, to continue to pack his supporters together, not enforcing mask mandates, not enforcing social distancing, and with deadly conclusions. Let's watch.
Touring the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta today, President Trump downplayed the scale of the outbreak.
In this big, vast land of ours, this great country of ours, we have 240 cases. Most of those people are going to be fine. A vast majority are going to be fine. We've had 11 deaths.
But those numbers are not correct. There are at least 277 confirmed cases and at least 15 people have died. Originally, Mr. Trump canceled the trip on reports someone at the CDC had the virus, but that turned out to be false.
Yep.
After signing the coronavirus funding package, the president suggested the outbreak was unexpected, even though his administration was issuing quarantines and travel restrictions in late January.
But it's an unforeseen problem. What a problem. Came out of nowhere, but we're taking care of it. What I hear, so we have 240 cases, 11 deaths. Everything's too much, and it's true. I don't want 11 deaths. I don't want any deaths, right? But over the last long period of time, when people have the flu, you have an average of 36,000 people dying. I never heard those numbers. I would have been shocked. I would have said, does anybody die from the flu? I didn't know people died from the flu.
Mr. President, you're shaking a lot of hands today, taking a lot of close pictures. Are you protecting yourself at all?
Not at all.
How are you
No,
staying
not
away
at all.
from germs?
Not at all. You know, I'm a person that is never big on the handshaking deal throughout my life. They used to criticize me for it or laugh about it or have fun with it. But if you're a politician, like I walk in and the doctors have their hands up. Hello, sir, how you? If you don't shake hands, they're not going to like you too much, and I guess that's my business. I never thought I'd be a politician. I guess I'm a politician. But the fact is, I feel very secure. I feel very secure.
Have you considered not having campaign rallies? Like, you don't
No, I
have one
haven't.
scheduled in Michigan this coming week.
Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't had any problem filling them. I mean, we just had one in North Carolina, South Carolina, all over the place. And we have tens of thousands of people standing outside the arena. So
Is it a risk if there's that many people close together?
It doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't bother them at all. They would like to have the people come off. I'd rather have the people stay. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship.
Many Americans are saying the exact same thing about you, that you should have warned them the virus was spreading like wildfire through the month of February instead of holding rallies with thousands of people. Why did you wait so long to warn them?
Who are you with?
And why did you not have social distancing until March 16th?
Who are you with?
I'm Weijia Jiang with CBS News.
So, if you look at what I did in terms of cutting off or banning China from coming in.
Chinese nationals. But by the way, not Americans who are also coming from China.
Nice and easy, just relax. We cut it off. People were amazed. These gentlemen, everybody was amazed that I did it. We were very early. Oh, I'm the president. And you know what I just did? And you know what I just...
And by the way, when you issued the ban, the virus was already here.
Okay, and you know how many people, when I issued the ban, how many cases of virus were in the United States when I issued the ban? Do you know the number? No, how many cases? Remember I said one person. How many cases were here when I issued the ban?
Did you know?
No, you have to do your research. How many?
I did my research. On the 23rd of March, you said you knew this was going to be a pandemic.
Can I tell you what? I did know it. I did know it. All I have to do is look.
So you knew
Anybody knew it. Just, are you ready? How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban? How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think
Keep your voice down, please. Keep your voice down.
Did you not?
How many cases were in the United States? I did a ban where I'm closing up the entire country. How many people died?
And that's a fair point.
How many people died in the United States? And yet I closed up the country, and I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths at the time I closed up the country. Nobody was there. And you should say thank you very much for good judgment. Go ahead, please.
So this brings us to the Tulsa, Oklahoma rally.
Bookman. Joe has the night off. Health officials warned against the rally, but President Trump said we have to move on. The crowd was much smaller than the president had promised, and his nearly 2-hour speech touched on a number of topics, although he never mentioned George Floyd or Juneteenth. Eyewitness News reporter Naveen Dhaliwal has details.
So we begin, Oklahoma, we begin.
And with that, President Trump kicked off his first campaign-style rally in several months, ignoring guidance from Oklahoma health officials who feared a large enclosed gather could help spread COVID-19 in a state seeing a record number of cases. The crowd was loud, energetic, and mostly maskless.
The top health official in Tulsa, Oklahoma, says U.S. President Donald Trump's campaign rally there likely helped cause a spike in cases of COVID-19. On Wednesday, the health director for the city and county, Dr. Bruce Dart, was asked by reporters if the Trump event on the 20th of June could be responsible for a surge in case numbers over the past few days.
We've had questions about, are we starting to see things connected to the Trump rally or the other protests? And so, as I said, past 2 days, we've had almost 500 cases. So, and we knew we had several large events a little over 2 weeks ago, which is about right. So I guess we just connected up.
Dart cautioned that several more days of results would be needed to determine if the spike represented a trend. White House spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany said she had not seen data to support Dart's conclusions. Meanwhile, Trump's campaign spokesman Tim Murtaugh said, quote, "All attendees had their temperature checked, everyone was provided a mask, and there was plenty of hand sanitizer available to all. It's obvious that the media's concern about large gatherings begins and ends with Trump rallies."
Herman Cain, the former chief of Godfather's Pizza, who launched an improbable run for the White House, has died after contracting COVID-19. Cain attended Trump's June 20th rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. supporting his fellow Republican at an event where thousands of attendees crowded close together, many without wearing face masks, including Kane. He was informed 9 days later that he had tested positive for the coronavirus. By Wednesday, July 1st, he had developed symptoms serious enough to require hospitalization. He said it was unclear when he had contracted the virus.
So all the things that we've seen thus far has led us to this point, to the point where we find out that he knew all along, that he discussed it. Let's watch.
The bombshell revelations come in a new book from Bob Woodward, in which President Trump says he intentionally downplayed the severity of the coronavirus in public to avoid triggering a panic. In his book, Woodward writes that on January 28th, the president's national security advisor warned him the virus outbreak in China was the biggest national security threat you will face in your presidency. In audio excerpts released by the Washington Post, the president revealing to Woodward on February 7th a surprising level of detail.
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. This is deadly stuff.
3 days later, he was saying this publicly.
In theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
And this on February 26th.
You do certain things that you do when you have the flu. I mean, view this the same as the flu.
On March 19th, in another taped conversation with Woodward, admitting he was deliberately downplaying the danger.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
The president, by his own admission in private on the record, acknowledged the depth of this crisis and yet told the American people something very different. How is that, at its core, not an abject betrayal of the public trust?
In order to reduce panic, did you mislead?
Well, I think if you said in order to reduce panic, perhaps that's so. The fact is, I'm a cheerleader for this country. I love our country. And I don't want people to be frightened. I don't want to create panic, as you say. And certainly I'm not going to drive this country or the world into a frenzy. We want to show confidence. We want to show strength. We want to show strength as a nation. We have to show leadership. And the last thing you want to do is create a panic in the country. This was a horrible thing. It was sent to us by China. Should not have happened, should never have happened. I was very open, whether it's to Woodward or anybody else. It's just another political hit job. But whether it was Woodward or anybody else, you cannot show a sense of panic or you're going to have bigger problems than you ever had before. Please.
So after everything that we've seen, the president downplaying the virus, talking about how it's nothing more than a flu, packing his people in shoulder to shoulder during his rallies and talking about how it doesn't bother him at all during this crisis. As we've seen him discuss therapeutics and things like injecting a detergent beneath the skin, the sunlight kills the virus. When it gets warmer, the virus is going to go away. After we've seen him deflect blame towards China, after we've seen him talk about how well he's handled this virus, and yet death after death after death, we are at the 200,000 deaths mark here in the United States. What I have to ask you is, how can you continue to trust what this man says? He's already proven that he's going to push the agenda that he needs to push in order to get himself ahead. How can we continue to sit here and watch him do these things? Why don't you question the things that he has to say about anything? Question his numbers. Question when he talks about the things that he's done and the bills that he's signed. Look to see who's written these bills. Look to see the danger that this man has become towards our democracy. And if you can't see that, then we don't really have anything else to talk about. I'm at WIKWEKO on Twitter, IndigPatriot.com. Please remember to subscribe wherever the button may happen to be. I appreciate you. Thank you.